everyone, and welcome to Little Book Expert Opinion Series. Some business are built on capital, and some are built on contracts. But the ones that last, like Yogi TG Group, are built on something harder to put a price on. Trust passed down literally from one generation to the next. Joining us today are Mr. Navneet K, who built Yogi TG Group from the ground up, and his son Asim, who is now carrying that legacy forward into a very different India. So we welcome you, Navneet sir and Asim sir. We look forward to hearing not just where this business is going, but how it got here. So the first question, Navneet sir, it's for you. You built WPP Group from the ground up, and now Asim has grown up watching down. What was the moment you knew that he was ready, and what was the moment you realized how much your father actually knew that was never written down anywhere?
Yeah, I started this unit 33 years ago. So Asim joined this unit in 2020. But it was very, clear to me that when he went for his studies to the US, that he would come back and join this business. He was already very much, uh, keen to join the family business and take it ahead from there.
First of all, thank you, Manu, for having this here. And I would like to add on what my father said. Growing up, I had always seen the hard work and the dedication and the passion which my father had towards UGTG. So I always knew in my mind, whether be it in my undergrad or even when I went for my graduate studies to the US, that I would eventually join this family business and carry this legacy forward. So I have seen him work this business since I was very young. I've seen it, the effort that was put by him, and from that moment onwards, I knew that it was not going to be easy. It was challenging, but I'm very grateful for having this opportunity. Many few people get to capitalize on opportunities like this, and my vision is to keep this growing, and let's see how far we can go.
So, sir, that's a lovely way to put it, sir. So, moving to second question. So, Indian cold rolling meals manufacturers have historically lost large orders to European and Chinese equipment suppliers. So, according to you both, what actually changed that allowed Yogi Ji DG Group to compete on the same technical spec with them?
Since we started manufacturing this mechanical equipment in 2008, our focus was to make import substitutes here in India, and that was our focus. And we started to produce, when we set up the factory, we started to produce the equipment which were not made in India, which were being imported, and even today is being imported by our competitors. So that was the main idea, to be more competitive on price, and also to reduce the delivery periods. If you make in India, and we make it at our own shop, we have control over delivery periods, we have control over cost, and of course the quality. And we are one company where we had lot of process know-how because of our automation background. So we tried to design the equipment user friendly. So that was knowing the process. We knew where it hurts the most to the customer. So we tried to make the equipment very user friendly, for easy to maintain. And we also focused on, being from electrical background, our focus was always on how to reduce the energy cost, so how to optimize things. So that was the game changer, and we could establish ourselves between the established major players from across the globe.
I would like to add on to this. So, in a sense, I think it all starts with the mindset. The first mindset that we have at Yogi GDG is that, we as Indians, we as a company, we are no lesser than any of our European or Japanese competitors. And for this, I am lucky because when I joined the business back in 2020, we already had established a name for us in various markets, including India, Africa, and work was already done. So I had to expand on that. So I think the first thing which matters is the mindset, And yes, we are lucky to have a great team with a automation background, like that said, who have process know-how. And if we continue to deliver quality and do our best, I think we can compete with anyone from across the globe.
That's a far more credible story than most of like Make in India narratives that I have ever, heard from anyone. So it's great, yeah.
So, next question is that cold rolling is a very capital intensive, precision dependent, and very heavily relationship driven. So, how does a mid sized Indian manufacturer break into markets where the Germans and Japanese have been entrenched for decades, as you had mentioned it before?
Yeah, so when we started making these equipment, so most of the mid-size cold rolling companies in India, they were using very old technology. So there was no automation, so there was no control on the quality, there was no control over the energy consumption. So we educated our customers, that we can supply an equipment, where you can have the control over the quality, your yield would be better. At that time in 2008, most of the mid-sized companies, they were not even worried about the yield. They were not worried about the energy consumption. They were just worried that how we can produce steel, how we can cold roll the steel at whatever be the cost. So, but when we entered and when we tried to educate them, that yield, they were always saying that we just have to sell this this material in kgs. We are not worried about the yield. So we told them and we educated them that at some point of time, the end user, will prefer a material which gives you a better yield, which is a better quality. So that will give you an edge over your competitors, and that will increase your market share. And the customers started to understand this, and then they adopted our technology, and they were really successful. And they have built over those successes. They have the repeat orders came on coming, and they keep on growing. They keep on adding capacities, new equipment. They started when entering into new markets. And then they trusted us to supply the new technology to them. That is how we grew our cold rolling business in the mid-size industry.
And one of the reasons, which I foresee is our, ability to be very, fast decision makers and being agile in our decision making process. Because as a young company, as an Indian company, which had a vision of being innovative, of doing some innovation, like my dad said, that focusing on yield. So to increase the yield, to make our products quality better, we had to be innovative and we had to be agile in our decision making. So as a young company, the ability to take decisions faster and not being dependent on someone higher ups is also a factor which I can see, which made us in taking the decisions and making the decisions work in our favor.
So it is like sir's experience and us seeing yours, this approach of looking is helping to grow the business.
Definitely, yes.
So, sir, Yogi Ji DG Group developed tension reels indigenously as an import substitute. So, how big is the gap between what India can manufacture today versus what still has to come from abroad? And according to you, who is closing it?
As I told you about the tension reels, so we are the only one company, who is manufacturing these tension reels here in India. So all our competitors are still importing. The problem is that because this is a very cumbersome job, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of time to make such precision mechanical equipment. So people don't have the patience to make these kind of equipment, and they just try to get it from out of India. And but still, I would say that there is a big gap, and we are already focusing on developing some more import substitutes which have never been done in India. Like we are making the carousel type tension reel for our 610 tandem cold mill, and we are also developing the down coilers for hot strip mill, and we have already have the infrastructure to manufacture big chokes for the plate mills, for the hot strip mills. So I think Yogiji DG is the group who is closing the gap between import substitutes and really making here in India.
You know, like I mentioned earlier, I think that the mindset that we as Indians we can achieve anything is true. And in the current scenario, when the focus of the world is to shift the supply chain to India, we're having lesser overheads compared to European countries, and we're having more opportunities, and we are seeing this wave of make in India. I think this is a good opportunity where you can, if you have the right mindset and the right infrastructure to support you, so you can make anything. And like my father mentioned that we already are been manufacturing tensionaries which are import substitutes. We are in the process of manufacturing down coiler for hot strip mills, a cruiser type recoiler. We are the first Indian OEM to manufacture a tandem cold rolling mill. We are in the process of manufacturing it as we speak. So there are many opportunities in India, and many people who want the supply chain to shift to India. So I think it is a good time for all the Indian entrepreneurs to make make good of this opportunity and do the best they can.
And we also introduced automation into our manufacturing also. So our manufacturing process is now fully automated, starting from the design and up to the finished goods. So we are also able to produce quality products with quantity, so that we can really feed the demand of the Indian steel industry.
That's the real scoreboard for Atmanirbhar Bharat and for Make in India, like according to the experience so far.
So before I ask the next question, there's one thing I want to ask you, that you had mentioned that you are the one who are doing these reels and it requires a lot of patience, and you are the only company who's like working on it, and the other companies are import dependent. And as we know, we are highly import dependent. So are you also educating other companies or collaborating with them so that even they can work on it, and we are not so much dependent on imports in future?
No, if you talk about working with the competition, definitely I think we are not really working, as a partners with our competition to develop these kind of equipment. But I think we are a motivation to them that yes, these things can be done in India, and these things can be done very successfully. And I think more people will follow, and the supply chain is improving. We are developing our vendors to make quality products, and so that we don't have any supply chain issues, and we don't have to depend for the raw material to be imported. So that way I think we are helping our vendors to develop quality products and giving them consistent volumes, so that the business is sustainable. So sustainability is a big question mark whenever an entrepreneur invests in the manufacturing setup or in the business. So he is scared that whether I would be able to sustain such kind of an investment or not. But I would like to tell like it is a chicken and egg story. If you have the manufacturing setup, you will have the business. You don't have to worry about the business. The business will automatically come to you if you have a good manufacturing setup and a good mindset to produce quality products. So you will not only have the Indian market, but I think the world is open to you.
We've been giving presentations, and my dad, he has been writing various technical papers and publishing these technical papers in various platforms that is open to the industry, not only the Indian industry but all over the world. So indirectly, if anybody who learns to or who wishes to get inspired from us or learn from the technology that we are developing, so it is open for the rest of the world.
So it's very great to hear that. Obviously, we always say it is always one first example. So I think you will be a great example, and in following this, we'll have more companies coming up with this, and in future we won't be so much import dependent. So moving to the next question, automation and industry 4.0 are reshaping what our modern rolling mills look like. So Navneet sir, you have built this business on relationship and engineering intuitions. And Asim, you are bringing on the next generation of thinking. So do you both see the pace of change the same way, or it's something different?
No, I think we are on the same page if you talk about the pace of AI coming into the manufacturing industry and into the production of steel and processing of steel. So we are on the same page and we are very excited about it. And our automation division is really a chapter ahead. If you talk about the AI, the reporting packages, the managerial dashboards, the maintenance dashboards to have predictive and preventive maintenance, and to give the health check of the equipment to the user. So we are way ahead of the curve. If we talk about the AI and the industry 4.0 coming into the processing of steel.
So, like my dad mentioned, that we've already initiated the initial steps into the AI and Industry 4.0 with our software department, and preparing different dashboards, and focusing on preventative maintenance, focusing on easy access of data. I think in this coming century, the access to data to anyone is going to be critical for their job. And I believe that if we can provide this data readily and easily available to all the plant manufacturers, it is going to be a big game changer with the coming of AI and other tools. So yes, we are already working on this, and many of our customers already, we have demonstrated our abilities to our customers. But if anybody is interested in, they can always reach out to us, talk to us, and we can tell it to them more.
So basically, sir, you both are on the same page. So, however, are there some conflicts sometime, or you are learning from each other?
Difference of opinion is a part of any journey, whether it is a business journey or a professional journey, or even, in a household, there is always a difference of opinion. But yes, we make all the strategic decisions together and try to work on, each other's competence so that we can get the best out of the youth and the experience both.
I always look up to my dad, because he has, built this foundation, and the vision is to, carry this legacy forward. And yes, there may be difference of opinion sometimes, but we're on the same page most of the time. And I'm glad to have a great mentor like my dad and all the seniors that I have here guiding me in this journey.
Yes, sir. There's always a mentor who gives you a direction, and then the path is yours. So it's very great to hear this.
So, sir, India's steel demand is growing by 8 to 9% annually, driven by the infrastructure and EVs. So, does that translate into real orders for cold rolling equipments, or does the industry just import finished flat steel instead of that?
No, I think a lot of special steel manufacturing units are being set up in the country now. So we are already setting up electrical steel CRGO annealing and pickling line for JSW JFE in Nasik, and we are also doing some. We also have orders for tin plate cold rolling and related equipment for JSW Rajpura plant. So a lot of special steel manufacturing will happen in India, and now the focus is on manufacturing special grade steels for automotive, for use in EVs or other passenger vehicles, and the electrical steel to be used in home appliances, in motors, in transformers, with lot of the government's focus on infrastructure. So lot of special steel and lot of focus on saving of energy, and to feed 1.5 billion people with energy, will always need, lot of transformers. We will need vehicles. We will need trains. So a lot of special steel manufacturing industry is coming up in India, and in the coming decade, a lot of companies would manufacture and focus on the production of these special grade steels here in India.
I think that was pretty much very, greatly summed up by my dad. I would like to add that yes, there is demand in the industry. We can see steel manufacturers focusing on these specialized steel grades, and there is great incentives from the government as well. So yes, it's a good future for Indian steel manufacturers manufacturing these specialized steel grades in India.
Sir, exactly. It is very much clear that the opportunity here it is real. But do you guys think that it's conditional now?
No, I think it's not. We cannot call it an unorganized sector, because we have, the world's greatest steel producers like Tata. We have, and they're also producing, passenger vehicles and other vehicles also, and like JSW, they are also now coming up with their, own EV manufacturing here in India. So they would need a lot of steel for that. Yes, still a lot of steel is being imported, especially for the automotive industry. I'm not sure about an EV, but a standard car would use 600 kgs of flat steel, out of which 120 kgs of flat steel is still being imported from outside India. So, but that will change. That will change with the new manufacturing, equipment being set up here in India. So that it is a matter of time, when this would also be produced here in India and not being imported from outside India.
So very rightly said. And my question continues on this aspect only, what you have told. As we are we know that we are now focusing on the EV. There's a lot of transition towards electric vehicles. And electric vehicles transition that requires needs high precision cold rolled steel for motor laminations and body panels. So is Indian cold rolling capacity positioned to serve that demand, or will automakers will again source from abroad, as we are already dependent on imports for it?
I think it will take some time. This transition will take some time, and when the Indian OEMs, would have to slowly build the confidence with the user, and that is happening. That is happening. That is what I am saying, that we are already supplying some equipment to produce these special grade steels by the Indian indigenous technology. We are designing and making here in India. So, but that will take some time. This transition period will take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. That the users will not trust us. We have to deliver some equipment which performs well, so that creates their confidence. Then they order some more equipment. So that transition will take some time, but it is happening. The focus is there. There is a zeal amongst the big steel producers also to use equipment designed and made in India. So there is a zeal, but definitely it is not getting overnight. So it will take some time. We as OEMs, we have to build that confidence, instill that confidence in our users, that yes, our mills are capable and we stand by our equipment. If we have any issues, we are there to resolve it, and we are there for you 24/7. And we can see that change. They are accepting our equipment, and slowly I think this will increase, and the market share of Indian equipment will increase.
The government in the national steel policy is to have a capacity of around 300 million tons of steel by 2030. Right now, I think in 2026 we were at a capacity of about 170 to 180 million tons. So there's still a gap of 120 million tons till 2030. And there are government initiatives, and the steel manufacturers are also moving towards that. And then adding this additional capacity. The focus is towards specialized steel, like electrical grade steel. So yes, we can see that there is zeal from customers to, move towards special grades of steel and reduce the, import dependency of Indian consumers as much as we can.
So basically, the transition they're doing, are the transition is being done due to the carbon emission perspective, or to increase the steel capacity, or it is for both? We're doing it both sides. So it's, what is your take on it?
I think at the moment the focus is on producing steel. Yes, there's also focus on using equipment, at least the putting new equipment which is carbon friendly and low emission products. But for the existing capacities which we already have, which are not so green, as I would say, so that would take some time. But yes, the new equipment, every company is very focused to have equipment which is carbon friendly. So I think that change we are seeing, and there is a lot of focus on reducing the carbon footprint, and everyone is committed to that.
Compared to developed nations, India is a developing nation, and like that said, the focus is on adding more steel capacity. But at the same time, we also get to learn from other nations and correct the mistakes that were made previously, and the focus is on more carbon friendly equipment as well, and policies like CBAM in Europe. So for the people who are exporting steel, they have to reduce their carbon emissions. They have to make sure that this steel is manufactured from carbon friendly equipment, so that they can save on CBAM. And in India as well, the carbon credit taxation, the CCTS scheme, is also seen to be around the corner, and it's likely of it being being implemented from 2028 or 2029. So yes, initiatives are being taken, and generally also people are much more mindful towards carbon emission and being carbon friendly.
So do we have the infrastructure and the technology that is required in the transition?
If you talk about the steel making, so definitely we would have to depend upon the imports for that. But if you talk about the downstream where we are positioned, so we are already making equipment which are green in nature, which consume less water, which consume less energy, and we also got ourselves ESG registered, I think, a year.
So recently we had a EPD registration for our 6i green cold rolling mills, and so EPD is a platform which is recognized all over the world. So all over the world, we are giving the emissions in the making of our equipment, in the working of our equipment, operating of our equipment. So we are being transparent with the numbers, and those numbers are on the EPD website, which is common to any public and accessible, and accessible all over the world. And so the initiatives like this are being taken, and so that the consumer is also more he knows that what he's getting and what emissions his machine will be making.
And if the customer starts getting the carbon credits, he's ready to get those carbon credits based on our EPD registration. Yeah.
Thank you for such your summarization properly and explaining everything.
So moving to our last question for the interview. So Navneet sir, Aseem sir, you have built this across 2 generations now. So where do you completely agree now, and where does the next generation sees things differently?
I would like to take this question first. I would like to say that I am very lucky because I was discussing it with someone else also, that there are very few people who get this opportunity to work on such a large scale, and even while getting this opportunity, they get such a free hand to work on things and take decisions independently. And someone like my father who puts the trust on me. So I'll say that I am very lucky to have the support from my father, who sees the second generation carrying the legacy forward and gives them a free hand to, take decisions, to, make their own decisions, and sometimes even make their own mistakes. Because I know that I have my father and the whole team behind me who will take care, even if, I may make a small mistake. So, that confidence helps me in taking these decisions. And I would like to say that we are on the same page most of the time.
The next generation is showing interest in the business. Most of the times we see, that they don't have the interest in the family business, and that and the children want to, venture into other things. But we are also lucky that we are seeing the next generation, working wholeheartedly and to take this business forward. And yes, we are mostly on the same page and working together to build the future.
That was only what I was asking, that do you think that youth has the power to change this business? So you answered it. So before ending the interview, I want to put the last question. So do you think large manufacturers always had leverage to negotiate good prices? So do you think that digitization actually helps the small and mid-sized buyer compete on equal footing, or does the scale still makes them win? So do you think that platforms like Metalbook is actually making this possible for small and mid-sized buyers and suppliers globally?
Yes, I think now the mid-size and the small, companies have a big advantage with the digitization coming in. They have a big advantage, and they can be, more. They can be a part of this, competitive world, and they have a level playground, I would say, because of the digitization.
Yes, I agree on the same. And in today's era, in this digital world, I believe that information is such readily accessible, information and the data, that people are much more. They have much more data to make decisions, to make better decisions. So the decisions which were accessible, the data which was accessible to large players, maybe around 20 or 30 bags, is very easily readily available to mid and small level players, allowing them to take faster and better decisions.
So, sir, basically, platform like Metalbook is playing a role with making a level playing field for everyone.
Yes.
Yes, you guys are doing a great job, and thank you for having us here.
Thank you, sir.
So, sir, that was probably the healthiest father-son duo any business can have. So, enough agreement to stay aligned and enough disagreements, according to you guys, to keep growing. So, sir, thank you, both of you, for letting us, into something that's usually a private conversation between a father and a son. So, what you have built is actually impressive. Even Manu ma'am was so much, into because taking interview with you guys, because she was so much impressed by the business. So honestly, looking forward to it, and thank you so much for the time you gave us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pragati. Thank you so much, Manu.
Thank you, Pragati. Thank you, Manu.
Thank you for hosting us.